So, the iconic 28 Years saga is back with a new movie, The Bone Temple. But after all this time, does it still pack a punch? Well, today we're going to break down a really detailed review from Yogi Boltahai to figure out what works, what falls flat, and honestly, who should even be buying a ticket for this. Okay, first things first, you gotta know where this movie fits in. This is the fourth film in the series, and it's not a reboot or some kind of side story. Nope, it's a direct sequel, picking up the story of that apocalyptic rage virus outbreak right where it left off. And that brings us to the reviewer's first huge piece of advice. He's crystal clear on this. You absolutely have to see the previous films to get what's going on. If you just jump into this one cold without knowing all that backstory, you're probably going to be completely lost. All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll walk through the review in 5 simple steps. We'll start with what the Bone Temple even is, then get into the good stuff, and of course the bad stuff. After that, we'll figure out who this movie is really made for, and then wrap it all up with the final verdict and the rating. First up, what is The Bone Temple even about? Let's get the basic scene set. Oh, and just a quick but important heads up, the review we're breaking down here is based on the Hindi dubbed version of the film, so just keep that in mind. So what did the movie actually get right? Well, according to the reviewer, there are a couple of major high points that really stand out. The biggest plus is for all you gorehounds out there. The reviewer makes it very clear that if you're here for some brutal, stomach-churning horror, this movie absolutely delivers. We're talking scenes with bodies being burned and flesh literally being ripped from bone. Yeah, it does not hold back. But the single biggest point of praise, the one thing the reviewer called literally mind-blowing, was the acting. Specifically, Ralph Fiennes' performance. He's described as being almost devil-like. And to give you some context, the reviewer said it gave him the same feeling as the powerful climax of the film Kantara, which, if you've seen it, is some incredibly high praise. Of course, it wasn't all perfect. Now we get to the film's low points, and this is where the reviewer's main problems really start to surface. The number one complaint, the single biggest issue that really seems to drag the whole movie down, is the pacing. The reviewer puts it bluntly, the movie is just incredibly slow. And this chart really paints the picture of why it feels so slow. If you're going into this expecting a classic zombie flick, you might be in for a surprise. The reviewer estimates that a whopping 90% of the movie is just drama and dialogues, leaving only about 10% for the actual zombie stuff. So this really frames the core problem, doesn't it? The expectation for a movie like this is nonstop, intense zombie action. But the reality is a film that's way more focused on character drama and talking. And that mismatch is really where the reviewer's main criticism comes from. So you've got this weird mix, right? On one hand, you have incredible, powerful acting. On the other, you have this painfully slow pace. It really makes you wonder, who is this film actually for? The reviewer is super direct about this. If you're looking for a big, action-packed masala movie, he says this is a big no. So anyone hoping for wall-to-wall fights and explosions should probably just look somewhere else. So then, who is it for? Well, it's for a very specific type of viewer. If you're someone who really appreciates strong, performance-driven drama, and you're okay with sitting through a slow burn story to see some incredible acting, then yeah, this movie might be right up your alley. All right, let's pull all this together for the final verdict. What's the rating and what's the big takeaway from all this? So when you factor everything in, the brilliant acting, the brutal gore, but also that super slow pacing and the lack of action, the reviewer lands on a final rating of 3 out of 5 stars. The reviewer also gives some pretty practical advice, especially for audiences in India. For its release there, the film has no profanity and any nude scenes are blurred out. Now, that might make it seem okay for family viewing, but he strongly advises against watching it with children just because of how extreme that gore is. And what about that ending? Well, get this. The story is apparently far from over. The end of the movie brings back a character from the very first film and basically serves as a giant announcement that, yup, another sequel is already in the works. But, that news wasn't exactly met with cheers. The reviewer definitely expresses some franchise fatigue. He basically says, I think it's enough now. It should have ended. He felt like this was the moment to give the whole saga a proper conclusion. And that leaves us with the final and maybe most important question the reviewer leaves us with. After 4 movies and a story that just keeps going, is it finally time for the Rage virus saga to come to an end? What do you think?